Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, September 16th of 2020, and we're here for Rudy's Psychic Meetup. And of course, here's Rudy.
Hey everyone, welcome. We are already in mid-September. It's hard to believe, huh? And we got some good topics for tonight. We're going to talk about Joan of Arc. She came up in a couple meetups ago. We'll learn more about her story and get Sam's take on it. And then we're going to talk about some secret encodings in ancient texts, see if there's anything to the Torah code, and also this mysterious Voynich Manuscript that there's been a couple YouTube or specials out there on Netflix that people have been watching. So anyway.
So much for that great intro, Rudy. It's great for the description, especially for the people who are tuning in through the podcast. So thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Rudy always puts together a fantastic lineup. So I'm excited to get started.
All right. Well, let's get into our topic about Joan of Arc. So we want to understand more about who she was and if she had any gifts. She is said to be the messenger of God. That's kind of her tagline. And Sam, you said you didn't know much about her. And I actually, other than kind of a cursory bit of information, I didn't know much either. So I'll kind of go through bits of her story and we'll ask you to get your take on some of the things that happened to Joan. All right. Well, she was named the Maid of Orleans, and I apologize for any French speakers out there. I cannot pronounce French names. She's considered the heroine of France for her role during the 100 Years' War between France and England, and she was canonized as a Catholic saint by Pope Benedict XV in 1920. So she was born to a peasant family in northeast France, and she claimed to have received visions of the Archangel Michael, Saint Margaret, and Saint Catherine of Alexandria. And they all instructed her to support Charles VII and recover France from English domination later in the 100 Years' War. So notably, she claimed to have a divinely ordained mission to rescue Charles and deliver him to be coronated at Reims. So, Sam, do you think that she actually had visions from God, or is this more kind of a tale that's built up around her and her experiences?
I think that if the story is true about her recognizing him without ever seeing him before, and I think he was actually purposely in like costume so that you wouldn't, even if she had seen a picture of him, which I mean, a picture back then, they were just.
That was actually my next question. It's funny how you get that. But yeah, so basically the story is when she went to meet the king for the first time, he disguised himself in the court. And when she came in, the story is she threw herself at his feet without ever seeing him before, saying, God give you a happy life, sweet king. And so that's one of those legendary tales, right, of how did she know him?
Yeah. And this is the thing, right? Like I always say to people are like, oh, do you think that person's a medium? I'm like, listen, I'm telling you right now that if they are a medium, like they can prove it. And it's not just like one off, like anybody can have a one off. Like you really can, like you can have a knowing one off. You can have, because I've told everybody before, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and if I can do this all the time, why can't most people, or all people, because they're spiritual beings, why can't there be a situation, once in a while where they do have an experience very similar to what I would have all the time? Because we're both the same, right? It's just that, I've got it worked in my DNA so that I can do it all the time. It's just that, when people come out of their body, this is what they can do. So why not have it once in a while?
Yeah, these are a lot of stories around Joan of Arc, and it's interesting how sometimes the legend develops and takes a life of its own. But the other thing that kind of enhances her story is, for years there had been vague prophecies in France about an armored maiden who would rescue France, and many of them foretold that she would come from the borders of Lorraine, which is around where her birthplace is located. So definitely, if the king hadn't heard these, or I'm sure he did, but can use these to his advantage as well. So basically, once Charles was convinced of her powers after meeting her, he sent her off to be part of a relief army that was going to the siege of Orleans. But before he did that, he sent her to meet with Poitiers, to be examined by church authorities. And so this is where there's some additional stories of the way she answered questions. She didn't get entrapped by some of those, tricky questions the scholars would try to ask her. So, do you think she had any sort of divine inspiration in the way she answered her questions, or was it just true faith?
Oh, you know what? It was probably divine inspiration, because it's in the same way that when I can tell people about medical things.
Yeah.
And I have, I'm not a doctor at all, and I'm very careful. I don't think I would ever advertise myself as like a medical medium, just because there's so many implications with that. But during readings, all kinds of that stuff comes up, like, all the time. And then, well, you saw the interview with Trisha, right, where she was talking about it, and it was very exact. And that kind of stuff happens all the time, where people come back from the doctor and, and they the person says to them almost word for word what I say, which is the other clue, right? So that's, like I said, if she was a medium, and I'm also sold on the fact that it was foretold. So you look at that as well and say, okay, well, that was something that was outside of her ability to sort of fabricate, right? So it was something that was known a long time before, and then she kind of fit the mold, and then she did exhibit special abilities. And if she was able to get her neck out from the noose, because believe me, if she got favor with the king, there were people gunning for her. I have no doubt they wanted to slip her up, but they were also fearful too, because they did believe that God existed, and they were fearful that if they got on the wrong side of this maiden sent by, God or source, right? Like, you don't want to be doing that. I'd be like, step off, man.
Yeah, there was one question, I forget, I was reading about it, where they posed it in such a way that if she answered one way, she would be, claiming to know what God wanted. And if she answered the other way, she would, basically be claiming she has no powers, or, but the way she answered it, she got out of a really tight situation. So, and then there was another, some of the miracles that they used to validate her. I think one was, they were in a boat going down the river, and the wind suddenly changed and brought them back. But some of those, I think, are also for, within the Catholic, to canonize a saint, you have to have like so many confirmed miracles and things like that. So anyway, I guess she became, gained a lot of prominence after the battle. She really seemed to inspire, I think, especially the people in the area. And this really was the turning point in the 100 Years' War, where France was able to take back their territory and name King Charles the actual King of France. So not a historian. There's a lot more to this. But yes, Sam, so it sounds like overall you think she wasn't just some crazy lady. She was actually had some sort of divine inspiration, huh?
Yeah, well, it fits all of the criteria that I would ask somebody about a historical person. I would be like, like them being foretold is a big part of it, because my understanding of everything as it is, it was very important for European society to survive in the world because of the balance that is created with the different cultures and societies. And so it was really important for Europe to survive, and for Britain and the UK to survive. So, I could see that, Source would be involved in that. And I believe that story to be true, that she, was sent to make sure that this happened. And you can see how, the people on the other side can achieve that without actually doing anything supernatural, because she never exhibited supernatural qualities other than having knowings and abilities. Like, just, she had knowings, like she could see the future, and she had knowings. She was a medium. That was all that, but she wasn't able to make things levitate. She wasn't, able to strangely appear and disappear. Like, she was just like a normal person, just like everyone else, but, was able to be used for some special purposes for, humanity, which I think when they pull out somebody that powerful, there's probably something important going on, right?
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks for that, Sam. She wasn't canonized until like 1920. And, you always think sometimes with the canonization, and it gets very political within the church, is, you can actually kind of create more of a legend than things actually happen. So it's good to hear that there is actually something to that. So I appreciate your take on that. All right. Well, our next topic, we're going to go into talk about some secret text. And are there any of these ancient texts that might have secret messages encoded in them? So, if any of you were History Channel junkies like I was in the late '90s, early 2000s, they did a series on something called the Bible Code, also known as the Torah Code, and this is a purported set of encoded words hidden within the actual Hebrew text of the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Old Testament, and they are seen to predict significant historical events. And the whole process started where they used to do this by hand, but they would look for any letters that were like equally distanced, equally spaced apart. So maybe you skip 2 letters, you skip 5 letters. And if you were able to find actually words within the text, and then you would look around and see if there's any words clustered around that. And so some of the claims of, I think, some of the rabbis and the people who originally searched for this was that, there are messages in the Holy Book that predict these certain events, but you only do it by looking back and searching for specific words. So Sam, let me just ask, do you think there's anything to secret messages being encoded within the text of the Bible, or is this just our human brains at work trying to find patterns where maybe there are none?
I'm going to go with the second thing, finding patterns where there are none, because it's almost like when you're talking about, the space between letters and then, what words do you form? And then you can, with language, you can apply so many. It just doesn't make any sense that you can do that. It doesn't. And to me, when you were talking about it, I was getting a big no on that. I was. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And they started using computers to do it. And it's funny, when you see it on the History Channel when they had a special, people were so convinced. They're like, yeah, and you look at like 9/11 was in there, and then you search for other clusters around it. But I think you could do that with almost any large text like Moby Dick or something. So
yeah,
all right.
I think that when people realize the probability, because the big connection, like the big piece, is like the words, and you can probably make it fit anything, because of the words that are used. And then you find something in history, anything at all. Like even the date, September the 15th, I was looking for one of my predictions, right? I wasn't looking for just anything because you know what? Oh, it's, something to do with crypto. Oh, it's something to do with Q and Donald Trump, right? The Great Awakening. Well, that's very general. But I have certain predictions that I've said, and that limits or minimizes because otherwise you could just really make anything fit.
Right.
So that's what I was looking for. And that's why people were asking me, do you see what it is? Do you see what it is? And I was like, well, definitely the crypto one, because I have to sort of play a little bit of a game sometimes with myself to figure out, what exactly is going on.
Yeah, and I always wonder, is it likely that someone, even if they had gifts, would be able to encode messages, or would they subconsciously, psychically do that? But I think it's just, how would somebody know to find it? It just doesn't seem the most likely scenario that somebody would do. So, all right, the other one we want to look at is this Voynich manuscript. So Sam, I put a link here in the chat, and if you can pull it up and screen share, there's really nothing to read, but I want to get, as you kind of scroll through it, I'll talk about this manuscript. A 600-year-old Voynich manuscript is one of the biggest puzzles in cryptology. Scientists are using AI to try to read it, but let's see if Sam can break the code. And if you zoom in, you'll see some pictures and some text there. So it's named for Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased it from a Jesuit library in Italy in 1912. He tried to interest people in translating it, but no one was able to succeed. We don't even know what language it's written in, or if it is a language, but it was said to be written around the 15th century based on some carbon dating that they did on the ink and the paper. So the book is slightly larger than a modern paperback and has about 246 pages on pretty good quality paper or animal skin. And it doesn't have an index, but it was likely there's probably some pages missing from there. So, Sam, some people theorize it was written by a young Leonardo da Vinci. And others suggested it was written by someone named Roger Bacon, who was a medieval English philosopher and Franciscan friar who placed considerable emphasis on the study of nature. So, Sam, do you think either of these two men are responsible for creating this manuscript?
No. And I think it's a fraud.
Ah. See, she always gets to the last questions. That was going to be one of my questions too. But yeah, so that was interesting because when you look at it, the text of it, it's not even a real language, and they've tried to do some analysis to say, is this some sort of code where somebody actually wrote code, encoded messages in something that isn't actually a language? Other people think it has various recipes or astrological guides, because if you think about it, some of this knowledge in that time frame, if it was, that could be considered, if you were a heretic, if you possessed it or talked about it, that's the other theory behind it, that there was some secret information encoded in there. But it sounds like you're getting a no on that.
Right. It's just made up plants, made up words. Somebody who had, today you can't imagine just sitting down and creating something like this,
Right.
just out of sheer boredom, right? This person was an artist. And this booklet, they created it. It was just an outlet for them. And then somebody found it a long time later and then just made a big deal out of it, when really it's nothing more than just somebody and it took them years and years.
Yeah.
This was just years and years of boredom. And plants were their thing, and then they were this made up language. They were pretending to describe the plant. But the words have no consistency. It's not a real language, because they would have examined the words and and they would have seen that there's no consistent pattern.
Yeah. That's what they found, and that was kind of the last thing I was wondering. And there are some theories that this may have been a fraud that somebody created just to to sell to someone, because if you had a quote unquote secret manuscript that had hidden knowledge, you could probably get quite a bit of money for it from some of the royalty back in that time frame, because information was power. So
Isn't that interesting? Because that was the word that I heard was fraud.
Okay.
I heard that it was a fraud. So hey, there we go.
Cool. Well, that was great, Sam. This is why we ask these questions. You never know what you're going to get. So very cool.
Yeah, Tech Cowgirl wanted to know if the manuscript was alien, and I think it's more along the lines of what Rudy just said, where it was a fraud. Somebody just created this, and it was out of sheer boredom, and then they decided to pretend it was something it wasn't, and then make some money from it. And hey, there you go.
The books were pretty rare back then, so yeah, you're going to assume that it's something as opposed to a fraud. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we have 20 questions tonight, so let's jump right into it. The number one question, upvoted 6 times, is from Winner Used to Be Loser. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Thanks for all that you do for us peeps. December 21st is 3 and 3, or 33. So I guess that's 12 and 21. If you add those together, it's 33. Seems to be a day of importance spiritually. In Australia, the Aboriginal leaders are ascending to Uluru to release the positive energy beneath Uluru. Apparently, is being held hostage by the dark entities feeding off the light and the energy. My question is, Samantha, do you or your army see any significance to this date? And if so, do you feel that it has any merit to possibly awakening the masses?
Yeah, I think that probably would be it, because I know that I was told it was a big date in astrology. So, and that date just randomly came out. I said I didn't have a date, and then I had a date. I think that's how it came out.
Thanks for that. So there is something to this December 21st date. I think that's right around the winter solstice too, I believe, if not the winter solstice. So Stars and Moon writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. When the soul is leveling up on the other side, does it stay with the same group of souls, or maybe it moves to a group of higher levels? Just curious about the hierarchy there. Can our souls look after human family members after we pass away, although we possibly level up to a different group of souls? Always grateful for your insights. Thank you both.
Well, your loved ones are always looking out after you. So that's a for sure thing, right? Regardless of what level they're at or anything. And, it's kind of complicated because, when you're in the human state, you're thinking about stuff with your brain, and it's hard to explain. It's not like I'm trying to explain to you my trip to Bangkok, right? It would be different than where you probably live, but there would be many things that you could relate. And, the colors are more vibrant. There is sort of a melodic music that's always in the background. So there's music in common with down here, right? But I mean, other than that, there's really not a whole lot in common with, the human realm I say the human realm 3D, right? So it's not much, there's not much in common. So about, that part, the watching over of the people who are still on this side by the people who've crossed over to the other side, I've been told that it doesn't have anything to do with the sort of level that a person is ascending to.
Okay.
Right. One thing has nothing to do with the other. And it's a human thing to try to connect that, but they're just telling me that, because I know nothing, right? This is just information that I gleaned from them, or because you guys have such great questions, and I get somewhat of an answer to it, and then try to use my ability of explanation, I guess. I don't like to call it a gift. I trained for many years to learn how to explain things to people in a way that they can understand it.
I imagine it's somewhat like the if there's any Star Trek nerds, the Borg Collective, where that group, all those entities are, networked together, but they're in their own little group. So, something where you just probably couldn't explain it to us here on Earth. All right. Anna Gretz says, 25 years ago, I had a crazy dream. I was on an alien spaceship. Till today, I remember all details. It was not nice. It was terrible, painful. They wanted names. They asked me the whole time to tell them the names. I will never forget the frequencies of their voices. Strange to listen. Was it a dream or a true event?
She might be tapping into some information in the ethos. So it did. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't feel like it happened to her. Okay. I think maybe it has happened. Okay. And it's out there in the ethos. You know how we said before that sometimes you can go to a place that's quote unquote haunted, and it's because of the type of rocks that are in the ground that for some reason it's almost like it records stuff that's happened in the past, and then it replays it. And that's why you always see that woman in the dress who's transparent, walking, across the stair, waiting for her husband to come back from the Civil War, and he never does. Like, that's why you always see that. They have pictures of stuff,
right?
So that's, one thing that can happen.
Thanks for that question, Anna Gret, that, because that stuff we do pick up on the ethos, but alien and abduction is going to be an upcoming topic. So if anyone else out there has some interesting stories, let me know, because it is a very fascinating topic.
Yeah, I do believe it happens though. So okay. I just don't think it happened to her. I think she probably was in a state where she picked that up, because I've had that happen to me before, but it wasn't happening to me. I was just getting information, and it would typically come during the dream state. And she's right. You don't ever forget it, because it's very, it's very disturbing.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay. Raymond says, hello, I saw something online today that suggests that the universe might be a massive neural network. Is it possible that something can happen here, or something that happens here can affect something else light years away, like the butterfly effect? Is there a central point in the universe or galaxy that monitors everything like our brain does? Thanks, Sam and Rudy.
I actually heard somebody say, no, it just is.
Okay. Too much to understand, probably. Yeah. Raymond also writes, hello, Sam and Rudy. If time only exists on Earth, why did the aliens crash at Roswell, New Mexico? It seems that if aliens can advance or regress through time, that they would foreseen the accident, saving the spacecraft and the occupants. Then we would not have known anything about them. Sam, what do you think? It sounds like if they're in this 3D realm, you're subject to the laws and rules of the 3D.
You got it.
Okay.
That's exactly the right answer. When you are here, you, like, gravity affects you. right? Just like it would affect any living being, right? So when they are here, gravity affects them. They're not floating off of the ground when they get off of their spaceship and are out walking around. They are affected by everything just like we are. So that's the risk they take when they come here. They can crash and they can get killed, and they won't disappear back to the other realm, because it doesn't work like that. They come through. It's almost like a portal.
Okay. Cool. All right. Marty writes, "Hi guys. Is there any truth to the superstition of seeing ravens or crows? For example, one for sorrow, two for joy, etc. I always thought seeing one or three or more as a symbol of bad luck, and seeing two as a symbol of good luck. What are your thoughts on that? Thanks."
I don't think that. I think that those are old wives' tales, but I do think that you can have a family member who's crossed over sort of send you a bird,
Okay.
With a message or a knowing, and sort of a number of them. Or, like I remember being told that, somebody saw a deer that wandered into their yard, and the deer like looked at them, and then they said, like, their father had just died, and they said, then I knew that my dad was okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting with animals. I have another story from my wife, but yeah, that it seems that people on the other side can actually either control or maybe possess, but get the animals to do things that we notice is just kind of a sign to us. So that's interesting. Yeah, ravens or crows are interesting. They've always been a kind of a bad luck omen. I think I don't know, maybe because they're dark, they just get that bad reputation. Who knows? All right, Tanya Oz writes, "Hi guys, what are your thoughts about the connection between physical illness in the body and emotions? What life lessons can one learn from chronic pain, and how can someone remain positive when doctors cannot help them, including alternative medicine? I've heard that some have success in healing through affirmations. What are your thoughts on this? Thanks for any insights."
Well, I do think that when people are in constant sort of stress, that they can, of course, I mean, it's a no medical fact that they can make themselves ill by constantly being under stress. I mean, and we all have different DNA as well. Like some people, you can eat and drink whatever you want and it doesn't affect you. And then other people, it affects them and they just can't do it. Everybody's like made differently for sure. So I remember the first part of the question where it was like, can this make you sick? But was it about affirmations? Like, can you heal yourself with your mind was sort of the question.
Yeah, can you use affirmations and heal yourself? Yeah.
You know what? I believe that. And I do believe that when a few people get together and have positive affirmations, send good intentions, concentrate, and that doesn't mean that if you don't get what you want, that it was a failure. Sometimes you don't get the best outcome, but you know what? Maybe the person that you got together with other people, even online, you all make an agreement that you're going to be sending positive vibes and good intentions and blessings to this particular person. And I always say, let me know their name and where they're at, and I'll just sort of have a little mantra that I'll think of, for them, and then send that intention there. But, we've had people who, they still passed away, and I didn't get the impression, or my mantra didn't include anything about asking for their survival. It was asking more that they would, that they wouldn't be in pain.
Okay.
And that they would be not afraid and comforted, like that sort of stuff. Right. So, sometimes people, they miscalculate, what is going to happen. They think that, they should get what they want, but it's like, it's never going to be a bad thing to stop and take the time to think about somebody and pray for them, because for some reason it does affect stuff. And I believe it's because we are all connected. Like we are all one when we cross over on the other side. So I can see why prayers would be helpful.
Yeah. I know an energy worker. I'll have to get her on the show, and we'll talk a little bit more about healing, because there can be, with chronic pain, deeper reasons for that are not medical, which it's very interesting how it all works. So anyway, cool. All right, Hummingbird writes, "Hi Sam and Rudy. Sam, your knowings told us that our genes were manipulated by the alien visitors so that we could work for them. Now our souls reincarnate here on Earth for spiritual growth. Did our souls reincarnate somewhere else before Earth? Thank you both for the great information."
Well, I am not sure about that. I'm thinking no.
Okay.
I'm thinking that this was a new thing.
They created these beings. They said, "Oh, well, we're going to put some souls in them," right?
Well, the aliens didn't know what they were doing. They were breaking the rules, but as far as they knew, they were just being scientists and tinkering with the DNA, and not really aware of source, and just kind of clueless to the whole thing, right? But source is there, and like, okay, well, we have to grow, but it's too easy here. You can't. You need some hardship to figure out the lessons that we're here to learn.
Okay. Good. Why? I'm going to skip your question. It's a little more personal about when you're going to retire. So maybe we'll put that in Ask a Medium or put it in the Discord, and Sam can take a look at it. Scott Davidson writes, "I'm curious about Daryl Anka, who Charles Bashar and Dr. Robert Morse, whom is a master healer. I wouldn't be surprised if they were 2 of the 8.
Okay, so I just heard that, and it's not in reference to them. It's more of hearing someone saying that it's going to be the most unlikely. So Bashar may be like an obvious choice sort of thing. Okay. But I mean, when you think about Donald Trump, for example, he's a very unlikely choice. Right. Okay. I am extremely unlikely. You have no idea how unlikely I am. So, but yet here I am. I am here.
Yeah.
A little bit late, but it's better late than never. It's my theme. And when you go down the list, I mean, Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on people that channel? Because I was watching somebody last night that was on Regina Mera, the show, who I just found out. But there are people out there who channel these either collectives or these people or these groups of entities. And in this case, Bashar, what he's asking about. Do you think that they are actually channeling like a group of beings from the other side, or in between maybe?
Well, here's the thing, right? You can have, if you're a medium, you can have a soul like go in you, so that you can, and it is actually easier to understand, like for them to communicate with you if they're like right inside of you. I did it once. That was because, I mean, I was only, how old was I? I was in my 30s. I was maybe around 38 when I did that. But I mean, I wasn't into full swing of my medium training or anything like that. Now that I know better, now that I'm a more experienced medium, I would not do that just because of the implications. And also I feel I'm good enough that I can get the proper message from the person without them having to climb inside of me. Okay. Right. But I guess it was something I had to do to learn to be able to answer this question. And I go back again to the proof of being a medium. And here's the thing, right? You know, a lot of people can play act and pretend stuff. And you know what? And you can even get people, you know, swearing up and down that you are, you know, for real and stuff like that. But I never paid any attention to that. Like, I wanted confirmations, and I want to know, like, do these guys, and also I'd want to know as well, because I mean, if they're con people, I would want to know if these predictions that maybe you have examples of predictions that came true, I would want to know that nobody else predicted it before them. You know, because one of my biggest clues that somebody was washed up was when they started copying me and I was a nobody, right? That was my first clue, that I was just like, well, you know what? I have no desire to peruse what other psychic mediums are saying and doing, like zero. I'm just like, nope, it'll just confuse me. If you want to be a medium in a certain area, make sure you know your stuff.
Yeah, and you've said, your life experience has really helped you understand this. And you've said, back to Alderson's question, they show you pictures from your life to remind you of what's happening. That's how they help tell the story. So if this person had very little knowledge of this, that might be the basic info they get is computers and money, right?
Right, exactly. Whereas I'll see like a story from my life that will, I can sort of figure out what they're telling me now. Compared to this person and what's going on, like, because they've given me sort of the bare facts on something, and then I've confirmed a few things that I should know, whether it's, how many kids they have, who's older and younger, because you can figure stuff out when you're seeing pictures, right? Yeah. And I can generally guess their age. Sometimes I get it right on the number more than I don't.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and if anything, I might be off by a year. So I'm beginning to wonder if now and one guy, he said his dad was always off by a year. I think I mentioned that before. Yeah. So that was actually a thing, right? So I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, well, I shouldn't be so hard on myself if I'm off by a year, because, maybe that's the message, that it is actually your dad, because he was always off by a year, by your birthday.
Okay. Next question is William Penn writes, for those who return to the Earth realm, do they always return with the same sex, or can it differ? Are those that go through identity crises here remembering who they are on the other side?
Okay, so there is no male or female on the other side, so they can't be remembering. I think what they probably meant when they wrote that was, are they remembering what they were in their past life, if they were male or female? So if you were male, you can come back as female, and you can also come back a different race, a different culture, anything. You can come back, you can be born rich, born poor, and just different, you have different cards dealt with for you, like every single time. I believe that people who have any type of identity crisis, it has everything to do with right now and in this life. A lot of the people that, I know a lot of young people, because I have a teenager and I have a elementary age school, little bean as well. But anyways, I would say that the kids who are having problems are the ones that have had problems, like in their home with their parents. Maybe they were molested. I think that there's an entire industry that has been grown up or has been fostered by these people who claim to heal you from your past life regressions, and to heal you. And if you just know this, then you can work that. This is all a bunch of bullpucky and a waste of money. And again, it's just invasion of the no talents. I don't want to get a real job. Let me make something up. Oh, you know what? Come see. I'm going to help you through this so that you don't hit people when you're mad anymore. No, listen, man. If you hit people when you're mad, it's because, number one, you haven't been punched back hard enough yet. That'll change your attitude real quick once somebody bops you right back in the nose, right? Yeah. Or, number two, it's got nothing to do with what happened to you in your last life. I mean, it has to do with, your upbringing and your temperament and right here and right now. And, so I don't accept anything from people who claim, to be unable to overcome something because of what happened in their previous life. Because that tells me that they have no control or no ability to overcome the issue. And I absolutely think that's a total and complete lie. I think that you can overcome anything when you're here, and just blaming it on your previous, what happened to you, and why you can't get over something. I think that that's just, again, big business for the no talents.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sam. I am Richie writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. I don't consider me having any gifts or something, but the last few months I've been confronted with so many 11s or 1111 that when I told my girlfriend about it, she saw the next few days what I meant. Now, yesterday, I took a screenshot of the latest Q post. Hold the line, riders. Justice is coming. And guess what? It was picture 1111 from 1111. Or 111 one. I don't know. Anyway, Sam, at that moment, my girlfriend says, ask Sam about that. There's so many thoughts. If this means something, thanks.
Oh, it absolutely does. It's a wink from the universe. And especially once you've noticed it, then they perform even more for you, because these are the little things that the people on the other side can do to let you know that they're there, they're watching you, they're helping you. You know, they get a kick out of it. They think it's cool too when you're like, oh my God, look what they did. You know, they're like, yeah, it's good. They saw it. They saw it. We're so excited, because they really have no other way to communicate with you, right? Other than to give you these little winks and just these obvious things.
When I was younger, I used to always joke. People would ask me what time it is, and I would say 3:33. I would say that all the time. And it's funny because quite often I will get like a receipt totals like $3.33. I see that three. So that's kind of funny. I always laugh when I see that.
Yeah. Speaking of 33, I just gave someone a reading not too long ago, and I just said, I'm getting the number 33. Does that mean anything to you? And normally it has to do with cryptos, right? When I see numbers about stuff, you know, normally when I see 33, I was wondering if it was an age. And I remember I wrote it down. We never figured out what it was. I said, you know, I'm just going to put that in the parking lot for now. And of course, you know, I'm famous for like leaving zeros off. Well, this person wrote me and they said at the time we were applying for a home equity loan and we didn't know how much we were going to get. And it's money we're going to put into cryptos. And it turns out that it's $33,000.
Okay. Very cool. Okay. Awesome. All right. Lucy Brown writes, hello, good evening to you both. Sam, within the next 5 years, do you think there will be a sighting in the sky of some kind of alien visitor that so many people will see, where they won't be able to cover it up anymore because it was seen in broad daylight, like a highly populated area like LA or New York? Cheers, Lucy.
Oh, yeah.
Rustler Stew, we haven't seen that name in a while, has a question. All right. Hi, Sam and Rudy. Over the past several years, I've been finding Roosevelt dimes in parking lots or shop floors, and sometimes just sitting on baseboards in hallways and hospitals and so on. I hardly ever find other coins. I keep wondering if there's any significance to this.
It's the same as the 1111, the one before. It's the wink from the universe, from the people on the other side. And they're just, you know, again, those sorts of things, easy for them to do, does not require a whole lot of energy. It's sort of like wink from the universe 101, leave dimes, the thing with the feathers in odd places, that kind of thing.
We had someone who always finds feathers in odd places, is from her husband. That's interesting. So cool. Wild T says, hi, Sam and Rudy. Does our family on the other side have knowledge about everything, or are they limited to their own experiences?
Do they have knowledge about everything? I would say so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because they are the ones, like, they tell me about the cryptos.
Okay. They just don't always predict prices for you and tell you exactly how it's going to happen. I guess they're coming from the perspective, right, that in your best interest, what you need to know at that time, right?
Yeah, it's on a need to know basis. And, you know, I mean, there's rules, right? You know, the universe does not operate without rules. Just like gravity is, that's the rule. There's gravity on the earth plane. This is just the way it is, right? And I operate I have rules, and you know, I'm not going to ask for exact numbers and timing and stuff like that. I know that that's not the right way to go about it. And I kind of know the type of things that would be answering me, right? Yeah. But when I get information, they're presenting it, like they're giving it to me, and then I accept it, and then I blab to you guys, and then it's all good.
All right. Monica writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. If our family always watches over us after passing, do we then choose to come back as relatives, friends, partners, and reincarnation? Do we choose to take on different roles to fulfill something that wasn't completed on Earth during that lifetime?
Well, we take on different roles and stuff just because you have the random, sort of like cards being dealt to you, right?
Okay.
So, number one, male or female, right? That's one of the cards. Are you male or female? Number two, your culture, like where you're going to be born at, and who your parents are, like all of that kind of stuff. The household, the home you're brought into, that's a card.
Okay.
So it's like there's so many different combinations, and the purpose of it is for us to fulfill our need as spiritual beings to improve. And the only way you can do that is, here on the earth plane where there's the suffering, you have to make the choices. But you also have examples of how you behave with all of the different sort of combinations of cards that were dealt to you in your life each time that you're here. So, it may be really easy to be a very benevolent, giving person. You're brought into, a wealthy family, they go to a lot of parties, they have lots of money to give away, and then they just and they went to the right school and and it's like, well, that really wasn't a huge challenge. Sure, there was, somebody had a cancer diagnosis in there and that was scary. And, your best friend was killed in a car accident and that was really terrible. And, so again, you have different sort of things you have to deal with as a person. And then, but when you go to the end of your life, then you come back and you're reincarnated, then you might go through the whole, born into a poor, single parent family in the Ukraine, extreme poverty. And, do you sell yourself on the street? It's like, it's easy to make judgments and assumptions about things. But one of the challenges about being here so many different times is that you will never have one life that resembles another.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks, Sam. And our final question tonight comes from Jackie B. Hi, Sam and Rudy. I was recently wondering if I'm an empath, but beyond that, why would there be a need for an empath? Seems to me it's really annoying as I have enough emotions to deal with of my own and don't need more negativity. How does one protect themselves or know what's theirs and how to get rid of what's not?
Well, just like anything, Jackie B, if it's been created, there was a need for it, and there are needs for empaths. I do believe some of the best counselors are empaths. And I think you're right on the money when you say that it's annoying. I mean, I can tell you that being a medium is annoying. I mean, it can be, because when you think about it, okay, if you're an empath and you're able to really, get into how somebody else is feeling. So you're able to speak to them on that level and give them some advice with understanding that they can connect with, right? Now, the negative side of that is that if you are an empath, when somebody is going through some terrible stuff, it can drag you down if you don't know how to handle that. And just in comparison, a lot of people say, oh, I would love to have the ability to be a medium. And I'm going to tell you, like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it is kind of cool, but there is the negative side of it. Like, I was going to say that just in the last, like, you guys, most of you have seen the video, the animation that my daughter did, where I try to explain what it's like when you're running to the other side. So I've noticed, like, the last couple of weeks that it's gotten like there is war. I'm like, it's just imagine me going and opening the door. Okay, I'm going to make a run to the other side, and I'm just opening the door, and I can hear like some of the grunts and some of the scary noises. But you know what? It's not that loud. I'm not out there yet. I'm not running yet, and it's not that. Well, now it's like as soon as I open the door, just imagine my hair blowing back, and it's just like, whoa, like that. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but the reading's already been booked. You know what I mean? No, it's fine. I mean, but I just wanted to tell people who are, dealing with anything at all on the, and back me up here, those of you who are in the room who have abilities like me, is it not like war in the in-between? Like war. I'm like, the arrests are coming soon. I'm like, oh my God, like this is gonna cryptos, gold, silver, arrest, the everything all at once. And so in that part, it's exciting. But I was thinking about that tonight. I was like, oh my gosh, every time and you know what, to be honest with you, if I don't do readings with people, then it's just going to bleed out when I'm out in the public anyways. Do you know what I mean? It's like, once you take the top off, you can't stop it anyways. I might as well do it in a situation where I'm sitting down and I'm helping people with their plans for their future, giving them some information that they may not have that will make a big difference in the choices that they make. So yes, Waya 64 says, we're ready. Yes, me too. I hope things calm down. I'm telling you. It's been crazy.
Exciting times for sure, Sam. So thanks. It was you got some great answers tonight and some great information we found out. And we will see everyone back here for Rudy Psychic Meetup on September 30th.
All right. And thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out. Bye for now.
Bye.